Access 2016, Module 1, Part 5. And in this section, we're going to be looking at creating a simple report so that we can print the information in our Access database. Let's get started. So at this point, you should have created the Riverview database. You must have the visit table in order to complete this section. You should have created the visit table in Part 1, and in Part 2 we added additional records to that table. You do need the visit table in order to complete this segment, and it needs to be populated with our data. The other two objects that we have created so far is a simple query wizard looking at a subset, not all of the fields from our table, and then a form that we could use to view, edit, or add records, viewing one record at a time versus our table, which in datasheet view views multiple records at a time. Now, we talked in the last segment about making sure that when you created your form, that the visit table was the object that was active as opposed to the query. So we're going to have the same issue here. So I want to show it to you first this time. If my list is the active file, and I go to, or the active object, and I go to create, and I use this very first report button, you'll notice that it creates a report that only includes the fields that were in the query. So if you were trying to do your homework and you noticed that there were only 3 fields here, but in the table there were 5, then you know you've done something wrong. So you want to close that report and do not save the changes. Then you need to go up and click on the visit table and make that the active object. Then you're going to go to create and choose report. Notice this time we have 5 fields that are displayed, so all of the fields in our table are included. So now we're going to look at how we can modify this report a little bit. I want to show you a couple of things, the views. First of all, we are in layout view right now. This is very similar to the forms. Layout view and design view can be used to make changes to your report the way it looks. Print preview and report view allow us to view the report information. So let's make some changes here in layout view. If I hover over the right border of one of the visit IDs, I can hold down my mouse and shrink the size of that field. I can do the same thing for the animal ID. I'm going to click on that field, grab the right corner or right box, and drag it in to shrink down the size. You'll notice when I did that, it did make it so that it will all fit on one page now. This dotted line shows you a page break. What I was trying to accomplish was to make sure that all of my columns will fit on one page. And then I can scroll down all the way down to the bottom. And you'll notice here that it's got this page 1 of 1, but because before my fields extended beyond the edge of the page, then this also is off the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that. Now remember, if you hover over a border and get the sliding arrow both ways, you are getting changes to the size. If you get the cross with the arrows and then hold it down, you can scooch it over and you'll notice now it's moving. Okay? You want to be careful. If you're just supposed to move it in one direction, you can hit the arrow on your keyboard to move it, or you can drag it. But you don't want to drag it this way because notice now you're moving it down. So you have to be very careful to stay within the line. Only make modifications to the report on your homework that they instruct you to do. Now the last thing that I would do is I would try to enlarge this box here. You'll notice that the 75 is cut off on the bottom. So if I grab this corner, I can enlarge it a little bit and make it fully visible. I probably would shrink it up a little bit, and that looks better. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is do a print preview so we can see what it would look like if we were to print it. So we're going to go to the view and choose print preview. Notice it's all on one page. If I want to see the whole page on the screen instead of just the top portion, I can click on this zoom button and tell it to fit to the window. That allows me to see the entire page. And we have scrolling arrows down here just like we did in the form and in the table. Only this time we are not scrolling by record, we are scrolling by page. So you can see there are 3 pages, and that allows us to see all 3. As I'm looking at these, one thing that I would probably do is I would change a couple of my headings. So let's go ahead and close this. And let's make a couple of additional changes. So if I click on the heading box, I could move this over a little, shrink the size. If I wanted to click on Office ID, Office Site, I might want to try to shrink that down a little so that it would move the heading over. But again, you don't want to do that unless they tell you to on your homework. So we're going to go ahead and save our report now. We are going to call it Details. Excuse me, Visit Details. And now you can see you have 4 different types of objects in your object pane. Each one has a different visual icon so that you can identify the reports, forms, queries, and tables based on not only this name, but also by the visual picture. If I wanted to print, I could say File, Print, and then I could either choose Quick Print or Print. Quick Print just does one copy. If I do Print, then it allows me to choose the printer and the number of copies as well as the pages that you want to print. So if you're on campus and you wanted to print something, you could print to a PDF, and that way it would not be using up your paper allotment. I'm going to go ahead and close this report. Now, the last segment of our video series for Module 1 is going to cover some of the miscellaneous tools that are toward the end of that module. Basically looking at some of the information available on the navigation pane, where you can access the help files, as well as how to compact and repair and back up your database.